Hi friends, I'm Dr. Jennifer Bird. I'm a biblical scholar, and I care very much about what people do with what they find in the Bible. This clip is about what is often referred to as the Curse of Ham, and I have a longer video from my Storytime playlist discussing the full passage with my form of commentary that is linked in the description of this video. There is something rather important that happens in the story about Noah and his family immediately after the flood, when the waters recede and they disembark from the ark. Genesis chapter 9, starting in verse 18, says, "The sons of Noah who went out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan, or Canaan. These three were the sons of Noah, and from these the whole earth was peopled. Noah, a man of the soil, was the first to plant a vineyard. He drank some of the wine and became drunk, and he lay uncovered in his tent." Now, let's pause for just a moment to reflect on the fact that it actually takes multiple years before vineyards have matured enough to produce grapes worth fermenting, right? And then another span of time to ferment the grapes into wine, yes? I believe we would call this fairy tale-esque, wouldn't we? Okay, back to the story. "And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brothers outside." So let's talk about seeing the nakedness of someone within the biblical canon. This is a euphemism for sex, believe it or not. In the infamous 2 chapters in Leviticus, chapters 18 and 20, there are long lists of the women that a man shall not uncover the nakedness of, which is to say, he shall not have sex with her, because she's a blood relative or she belongs to a man he is related to. We also see this euphemism in the prophets and sprinkled throughout the biblical narratives. The point is that seeing the nakedness in this passage is likely not just saying that Ham saw his father's jewels, if you will, but that Ham did inappropriate things to his father. It does sound like it to me. And just so you know, people have been reading that passage in this way for centuries. So let me read just a few more verses, and then I'll try to clarify how all of the pieces here fit together for the points I'd like you to think about. "When Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his youngest son had done to him, he said, 'Cursed be Canaan! Lowest of slaves shall he be to his brothers.' He also said, 'Blessed by the Lord my God be Shem, and let Canaan be his slave. And may God make space for Japheth, and let him live in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his slave.'" So just to be clear, Ham has allegedly done something wrong, terrible, and his descendants are being cursed because of it, and being pronounced to be the slaves of their cousins, the descendants of Shem and Japheth. And I'm doing this visual with my hand about family lineage diagrams, right? Then at the beginning of chapter 10, we have the Table of Nations, as some call it. Numerous generations of descendants of each of Noah's 4 sons are delineated. Shem, the oldest and the one most blessed by Noah, is the one that Abraham is a descendant of. Let me remind you that the narrator is repeatedly telling us that Ham's descendants are, first and foremost, the people in the land of Canaan. His descendants will be the people that Abraham's descendants will contend with most intensely in a few generations. So it is quite useful to have a story denigrating the patriarch of that lineage, since the descendants of Shem end up wanting the land that some of the descendants of Ham are living in. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Additionally, and here's where things get really interesting and what I would really like you to think about, Ham is noted to have 4 sons, not just Canaan: Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. So this is a way of referring to the people living in the regions that the people of that time associated with those labels, right? So Cush is the land we know as Ethiopia, over on the eastern side of the African continent. Egypt is still Egypt. Put is likely a reference to people living in the region of Libya, which is in northern Africa to the west of Egypt, but warriors, to be sure, and then Canaan, over on the Asian continent. So why does this matter? Because, as I noted, the other three besides Canaan are in Africa. So, if you were not already aware, today is the day that you learn that the people running the North Atlantic slave trade used this biblical passage to help justify what they were doing. As people identifying with the Christian tradition, they would be identifying with the lineage of Shem, since that led to Abraham. And Christians also claim Abraham as their forefather in faith, even if not by bloodline. They are to be most blessed, according to this biblical passage. The people from the continent of Africa are to be their slaves. This is one of those biblical passages that people have read relatively accurately, taking it literally, in order to inflict catastrophic harm for generations of people. It is wildly direct and tragic, wouldn't you say? Thank you for taking a look at some of my work. I hope you find it useful. And if you do, I would love it if you would like the video and subscribe to my channel. The reason is that helps other people like you interested in this kind of content find what I'm doing. It's a win-win, really. See you next time.